Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons in context to the sequel to the Star Wars sequel trilogy, specifically one moment in one event in The Last Jedi where Luke Skywalker is actually talking with um, Yoda, right? And specifically Force Ghost Yoda. So let's get into this. All right. So I think there's a lesson in The Last Jedi for every dungeon master and every dragon master. I think there's something really significantly powerful that is said in this particular series, in this film, and it really cannot be ignored. I don't think anything Yoda ever said can be ignored by any dungeon master or any dragon master. The reason why is Star Wars is connected to Dungeons and Dragons, very intimately connected to Dungeons and Dragons. If you follow my channel, you already know how. If you don't, just read more or watch more of my videos because I'm not going to repeat myself here. All right, so let's get into this. Let's talk about this. So what happens in The Last Jedi? So Rey goes to Luke Skywalker and he has exiled himself. And the reason why he's exiled himself is he's ashamed of himself, and he is ashamed of what he's done because he has completely failed Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren has completely turned to the dark side and literally killed Jedi students that were serving with that were at Luke's Jedi Temple, right? Jedi Academy, right? So he has failed in huge ways. Like there are literally, young adults who are dead because of his failure, like very deep, right? And so Rey comes to him and she's like, "You got to train me," right? And he's like, "I don't want to train you, and you don't want me to train you, and none of this is going to help." And what's wild is, it's like, you say words and people don't listen, right? And Rey's like, "Oh my gosh, you almost killed Kylo Ren. Now I'm going to try to kill you with a lightsaber. It's exactly like you just warned me, like that I really didn't want to be trained by you, and like everything we've done for the last week has been a huge waste of time," right? And you're like, "Oh my gosh," right? Like, like because Luke told her, right? But young people don't listen to old people. That's just a fact of life, right? It's just you cannot give anyone else your victories, right, or your lessons, right? Learn this. It's very true. All right. So Luke gets upset, right? And he is at a Jedi sanctuary, right? And they have Jedi text there, and they have the tree there, and and they have, and this is like the last relics of the Jedi Order, right? And so Luke gets upset and he goes to the tree that is on this planet that he has exiled himself to. And he brings a torch, literally a torch. And he goes up to the tree, and the tree where he went in and faced Vader, but on a different planet, right? Because the tree is kind of like universal; it's accessible from different places. And it was really wild because and the Jedi sacred texts are in this tree, right? And he has this torch, and he's going to throw the torch on the tree and burn it all. And so and we know that because Force Jedi Yoda shows up, and then he's like, "Hey," and Force Jedi Yoda, and he's like, "I'm going to burn it all down." And he's waiting for Yoda to stop him, right? But Yoda doesn't stop him, and he can't, right? He literally can't. He can't burn the sacred text of the Jedi. He can't burn the tree where they get their visions. He can't do it, right? And he's like, "Oh, I thought I wanted the Jedi to end, but I guess I didn't." And Yoda, like Yoda does what Yoda does. He shocks Luke into a different way of understanding. And Yoda brings Force lightning and ignites the entire tree and burns the sacred texts. And you're like, what? What now? Really, like, wait. And Luke's like, "How could you do that?" And Yoda's like, "That's what you came here to do here. That's what you came to do. Now you're whining because I did it," right? Like, and it's such a wild scene, right? And it's really, it's incredible just to see how this thing flows out, right? And Yoda says, "Oh yeah, the sacred texts. You read them. They were real page turners, right?" And then you realize Luke was protecting these books he hadn't even taken the time to read, right? Like, and you're like, oh my gosh. And Luke was like, well, I was gonna read them, right? And and Yoda says, you didn't even read them, right? And he's like, listen, if you think that the Jedi are in those books, you don't know what you're talking about, right? All right, so let's make the D&D turn here. What is the lesson here? First of all, we are in outrageously dangerous territory, right? This is book burning. Like, this is literally the crime that was done against us, right? Happened in 1983. They came to burn physical books. Happened in 2023. They came to burn. They didn't come to. In 1983, they literally burned physical books. In 2023, they literally burned digital books, right? This has happened twice. This is the crime that's happened against us, right? So what is the lesson here? What are we supposed to take away? And this is extremely challenging, right? I'm going to tell you what I think it is. This is my best summation from the evidence that's been presented, right? I think what they're saying is that we must contain Dungeons and Dragons in our hearts and in our minds and in our spirit. It has to be carried emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. We have to. And we cannot allow the D&D canon hardbacks to be a crutch. And the reason why, and I think the reason why this was put into Star Wars, was to warn every single dungeon master, you have to be ready to run Dungeons and Dragons when every physical canon hardback is gone. You have to be ready to run Dungeons and Dragons when every digital source is gone. When we are warming our hands over barrels, when there's a plague, killing 9 out of 10 humans, this is super invaluable. And you have to write this onto your emotional layer. You have to write this onto your intellectual layer. And you have to write this onto your spiritual layer so that Dungeons and Dragons can be carried forward when every physical book is destroyed and when every digital book is destroyed. The ultimate sentinels, the ultimate protectors, right? Book of M. You understand? We have to write this on ourselves. And that's not going to be easy, right? Like, we should be right now, like, one, we all have to have a kernel of it in us. We have to be able to explain it. We have to be able to give an elevator pitch of Dungeons and Dragons accurately, right? And then also, we should start forming groups. Like, hey, you need to remember these sections of the PHP. You need to remember these sections of the DMG. You need to remember these sections of Monster Manual. And we rally at the old cistern when the world goes to heck in a handbasket. All right? I think that's what Yoda's words means for every Dungeon Master and every Dragon Master. In my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to your humble opinion. Every single word you just heard from me was my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.